Do you know the fastest way to ruin a perfectly good day? You're driving. Some guy cuts you off, almost causes an accident, then turns around and flips you the middle finger. What's the reaction of 99% of humanity? Heart racing, blood rushing to your head. In just 3 seconds, you personally burn through every bit of positive energy you had. But there's a group of people I call the unbothered. When someone cuts them off, they calmly tap the brakes. They watch that car speed away with a neutral look. While chaos is happening outside, their mind stays quiet like a still lake. No judgment, no resentment. At first glance, you might think they're weak. You think they're people who just put up with things, who don't dare to fight back. But you're wrong, completely wrong. In reality, they are the scariest, most powerful people in any room. They are not silent because they're afraid. They're silent because they're playing a completely different game. Today, I'm not going to give you cheesy advice like just take a deep breath. No, I'm going to give you the real source code to hack that biological mechanism to install a psychological shield that makes every attack meaningless. Because the brutal truth is this: if anyone can make you angry, then anyone can be your master. And this video is how you take back control. To never get angry, the first thing you must understand is this: why did nature program anger into our brains in the first place? We have to go all the way back to prehistoric times. Imagine you are a cave person living in a cave. Your world is full of danger: saber-toothed tigers, venomous snakes, and hostile tribes. In that context, anger was a survival superpower. When someone crossed your boundaries, an alarm bell in the brain was switched on. This primitive part of the brain exists to protect you from danger. So it reacts extremely fast. So fast that it doesn't need thinking. In a split second, your body is flooded with survival energy. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tighten. Your eyes lock onto the threat. You enter fight or flight mode. The problem is, at the same time, the part of the brain responsible for logic and calm thinking is almost completely shut down. You are no longer responding with intelligence, but with instinct. In science, this is called an amygdala hijack, when emotions take over the controls and reason gets pushed into the back seat. Nature designed it this way for a reason. When a tiger is charging at you, you need to punch or run. Thinking too much would get you killed. But here's the tragedy of modern humans. Our hardware is about 100,000 years out of date. Your primitive brain cannot tell the difference between a tiger running at you and a passive-aggressive email from your boss. It processes both as the same thing, a survival threat. When someone cuts in line at the supermarket, your amygdala screams, "Territory invaded, kill it," and suddenly your face turns red. Your heart pounds, your fists clench. You are preparing for a life or death battle over a checkout line. The real danger lies here. Cortisol. Every time you get angry, cortisol, the stress hormone, floods your body. If you were fighting a tiger, cortisol would be burned off through movement. But when you sit still in an office chair and get angry, cortisol builds up. It's like poison flowing through your bloodstream. It damages the immune system, raises blood pressure, and kills brain cells in the hippocampus, the memory center. So, change your perspective immediately. When you get angry over something small, you are not being strong or full of personality. Biologically speaking, this is a malfunction of your defense system. You are letting the reptilian brain take control over the human brain. It's like drinking poison yourself and hoping someone else feels the pain. The unbothered people understand this mechanism very well. When anger starts to rise, they have a special ability called the pause. They notice their heart beating faster. They notice the amygdala ringing the alarm bell, and they say to themselves, this is an outdated biological reaction. There is no tiger here. It's just a negative comment on the internet. Simply by naming the emotion, this is called labeling. They reactivate the prefrontal cortex, and instantly the anger deflates like a balloon losing air. So how do you do this in the heat of the moment when emotions are boiling over? I'm going to give you 4 tricks to hack this process. Think of this as a survival toolkit for modern society. The first trick comes from the ancient Stoic philosophers, weather thinking. Imagine you planned a perfect picnic after a stressful work week. You prepared the food, drove to the spot, laid out the blanket, and the moment you sit down, it starts pouring rain. Do you stand there, raise your fist to the sky, and yell, "Why are you raining on me? Do you not respect me? Do you know how carefully I planned this?" Sounds ridiculous, right? You don't get angry at the rain. You accept it as an objective fact of nature. You know the rain has nothing personal against you. It rains simply because the atmospheric conditions came together. That's it. You pack up, open an umbrella, or find a nearby cafe to sit in. The plan changes, but your mood doesn't get destroyed. So why do you react differently to human behavior? When someone is rude, snappy, or socially clumsy, understand that this is their internal storm. It's the result of their environment, the pressure they're under, and personal problems they don't know how to handle. Just like rain comes from dark clouds, their behavior comes from dark clouds in their mind. It has nothing to do with your value. It's not personal. When you separate their behavior from your sense of self, you stop feeling offended. You simply think, his weather forecast shows a storm today. And you open your umbrella called calmness and keep walking. But inner calm is not always enough. Sometimes the outside world is too harsh, and you need real armor so toxic people can't break through. That's weapon number 2. The gray rock method. In life, we often run into narcissists or people who are addicted to drama. These people live off your emotional reactions. They are like emotional vampires. They poke, mock, and provoke just to see you get sad, angry, or try to defend yourself. Your reaction is the food that feeds their ego. The gray rock technique is very simple. Become so boring that they no longer want to play with you. Imagine your mind as a dull, gray, emotionless rock sitting by the side of the road. No one wants to stop and argue with a rock. A coworker walks up to your desk and throws this at you. Why have you been working so badly lately? This project looks like trash. Instead of turning red and arguing back or listing all your efforts, you simply look up and calmly say, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll review it." Then you turn back to your work. At this point, they will almost certainly feel disappointed because they didn't get their food, which is your frustration. They might try to provoke you further. What kind of attitude is that? Can't take criticism. And then you still keep the same flat, emotionless tone. "I've noted your opinion. Thank you." No defending, no counterattacking, no long explanations. When the other person realizes they can't stir the still lake inside you, they get bored and go look for an easier target. Your intentional dullness is the strongest wall you can build. But what if you have to speak? What if silence is not an option? Then activate trick number 3, detective mode. The neuroscience principle here is simple. The brain cannot be angry and curious at the same time. These are two opposite states. When you become curious, anger automatically shuts off. So, when someone attacks your character, instead of putting up a defensive wall, step forward and investigate. Imagine you're in an argument and the other person suddenly goes personal. You're extremely selfish. You never think about anyone but yourself. This is the moment when blood rushes to your head the fastest. Instinct tells you to shout, "When have I ever been selfish? Do you know how much I've done for you?" Stop. A detective does not argue with a suspect. A detective looks for evidence. Slightly tilt your head. Look at them with genuine curiosity. Remember to stay curious and not sarcastic, and ask, "That's a pretty serious claim. Specifically, what recent action of mine made you feel that I was being selfish?" Or if they're just being rude for no clear reason, ask about their motive. Is something bothering you today? Why do you suddenly feel the need to use such harsh words with me? Do you see the power of this switch? It is like a psychological judo move. You do not block the force. You go with it and make them lose balance. When you ask why, or specifically what, you force their brain to shift from the emotional brain, the one that is yelling, to the thinking brain, the one that has to reason. They are forced to stop shouting and search their memory for evidence. And more importantly, the question, "Why do you want to hurt me?" acts like a huge mirror. It forces them to look straight at the ugliness of their own behavior. Most of the time, they will freeze, stumble over their words, and lower their voice immediately. Congratulations! You just put out a fire of anger with the calmness of a detective. You turned an argument into an interview, and you're the one holding the mic. The final weapon in the strategy is learning to analyze raw data. Most suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from the novel we write in our own heads. The fact is, he didn't reply to your message for 2 hours after his phone showed seen. That is objective data. The story you tell yourself is, he's disrespecting me. I don't matter anymore. He must be mad at me. It's the story that makes you lose your mind. Train yourself to look only at the raw facts. He hasn't replied yet, period. Maybe he got pulled into an unexpected meeting. Maybe he was driving and forgot. Don't write extra tragic scripts just to torture yourself. When you keep only the raw data, your emotions stay in a neutral state. Now let's talk about the massive value you gain when you apply these 4 tricks. This isn't just about avoiding arguments. It's about upgrading your entire social position. When you are never easily triggered, you become a lighthouse. Picture a storm at sea. Waves crash violently. The wind screams. Ships are thrown around. But that the lighthouse stands there solid, steady, shining. Waves can smash against its base, but they break and pull back while the lighthouse remains untouched. In life, people are often dragged around by emotional storms. They panic. They feel fear. They get angry when they see someone who can stay perfectly calm in the center of the storm. They are unconsciously drawn to that person. They look at you and think, this person has an inner strength I don't have. This person is reliable. This person is a leader. Composure is the strongest signal of confidence. Only the weak need to shout to prove they are strong. A lion doesn't need to roar at a barking dog on the roadside. It just walks on, and its presence alone is authority. Now think about your energy. Anger is extremely expensive. Every time you explode, you burn glucose and exhaust your nervous system. After an angry episode, you can't do anything well. You lose focus. You lose creativity. When you stop getting angry, you save a massive amount of energy. You can use that energy to work, to make money, to create, to love your family, or simply to enjoy life. You will notice greater mental clarity. You see opportunities that angry people cannot see. While they are busy arguing about who's right and who's wrong, you've already found the solution and moved forward. You become untouchable. Criticism, gossip, and rudeness slide off you like water off a leaf. Not because you don't feel anything, but because you understand your own value. You know your worth is not defined by the words of someone who can't control their emotions. So this is your mission. Next time you step outside and someone tests your patience, and trust me, they will, because this world is full of people who are hurting and want to spread that pain. Don't see it as bad luck. See it as a test, a training exercise. Smile quietly to yourself and think, here it is. A chance to practice weather thinking. Take a deep breath. Count 1, 2, 3. Turn cold and still like a gray rock. But observe them with the sharp eyes of a detective. Don't react. Study, and that's the moment you keep a firm grip on your remote control. Don't let anyone live rentry in your head. Your mind is the most valuable house you own. Premium real estate. Don't open the door to people carrying trash. Peace is not a place without noise or trouble. Peace is the ability to keep your mind calm right in the middle of it all. And that ability is already in your hands. You don't need to raise your voice to win. In the game of life, the person who keeps the coolest head always wins. If you want to learn more about how to reverse manipulate people who are trying to manipulate you, or how to read anyone in just a few seconds, click on the next video. It will equip you with even sharper psychological weapons. I'm Apex. Remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss knowledge that makes you smarter every day. Goodbye and see you next time.